Welcome to our special Sorceress CEO series, my friends. As we step into this new year together, I want to invite you into a journey that is both deeply practical and profoundly spiritual. A journey to reimagine how we do business as women entrepreneurs, weaving in principles of the sacred feminine. This 6-part series is designed to empower you around the themes that often challenge us the most: money, pricing, choosing a business model, delegating, marketing, defining your niche, and more. Each episode will offer clarity and actionable steps to create a business that aligns with your values, supports the life you want, and amplifies your impact in our troubled world. This isn't just about strategy, it's about reclaiming business as a spiritual practice, one where you root into your power, honor your intuition, and lead with your devotion to service and love. Over the next 6 weeks, I'll draw from over 2 decades of experience supporting thousands of women on their entrepreneurial paths, blending tried and true wisdom with fresh practices to help you stay relevant and inspired in 2025's ever-evolving landscape. So settle in, whether you're listening with your morning coffee, on a walk, or between client calls. I'm grateful you're here. Let's redefine what it means to be a Sorceress CEO and explore the sacred power of doing business in a way that's uniquely, authentically yours. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to Herself, a space for women to have deep conversations about the intersection between spiritual entrepreneurship and fulfilling your potential, so you can become the woman you truly are in every area of your life. After being in business for over 2 decades, I've learned, as you likely have too, that as you grow your business grows you in unexpected, often challenging, yet miraculous ways. Here, we'll talk about how to get out of your own way so you can grow a business that's abundant and sustainable while allowing you to be a force for good in the world. I'll give you simple, actionable strategies as well as wisdom and inspiration to help you root into your wholeness, lead from your values, and work in ways that feel deeply aligned so you can bring your true self into the world through your business and in every area of your life. A big, warm welcome to 2025, my friends. I hope you had a nourishing holiday season or whatever it ended up being, because I can know holidays can bring up all sorts of things. Here we are, right? So like pulling out a fresh notebook and opening up to that first blank page. I always love that feeling. The story of your unfolding and of the unfolding of your business in this new year are yours to write, and the time is now. I spent the past 3 weeks unplugged, which I'm very grateful for. This is always the most refreshing thing for me. While I love my work, I love the women that I work with, I love my life, I also really love taking these periods of retreating. And it felt especially necessary this past year. 2024 was a book launch year, which means that when I'm not launching a program or a service, I was launching my book. And that's a lot, on top of a number of other front-facing and back-end systems and structures that I've been building in my business. It was a year of a lot of hard work. It was very intentional, and I knew that I was going to need some hibernation on the other side of that. So that's what I gave myself. I read some novels, I watched some great movies, I took naps, I went for lots of walks, I visited with some of my family and friends, and generally just had a lot of quiet time at home. This is for sure my favorite time of year. There's that stretch from Thanksgiving to New Year's, and just the coziness of the cold here in Colorado, the darkness, the twinkling Christmas lights, the fire in the fireplace. I love it all, and I'm feeling refreshed and looking forward to this new year together. To kick things off, I want to welcome you today to a special series that I'm offering here on the podcast over the next 6 weeks. It's called the Sorceress CEO series. And in case you're wondering what a Sorceress CEO is, That's part of what we'll be delving into here today. So, this series is designed to reframe the ways that we do business, rooting them in principles of the sacred feminine. It's here to empower you around the business related themes that tend to trip us up as women business owners the most. Things like money, pricing, business models, delegating, marketing, defining your niche. Time management is here to offer clarity around ways to create sustainable, multiple six-figure businesses or higher if that's what you want, that afford you the lifestyle freedom and the impact that you desire. And we do all of this first and foremost by rooting into your inner power. All that I'll be sharing here is sourced from my over 2 decades of being in business now, and also supporting thousands of women on their own journeys throughout that time. There'll be a balance of my tried and true experience and up-to-date best practices so you can stay relevant in this rapidly evolving business scape that is 2025. Now, the theme for the first episode in this series is business as feminine spiritual practice. Business as feminine spiritual practice. To start, I want to define Sorceress CEO for you. First, I love blending two seemingly contradictory words or ideas together, which even the title of this episode does. Business as feminine spiritual practice. We don't usually equate business with feminine spiritual practice. We don't usually combine sorceress with CEO. But blending contradictory ideas or terms together helps us to break out of rigid ideas, linear thinking, helps us to step outside of conventional boxes, and it sparks new insights, new connections, and in turn, it helps us to forge new ways of being and even new identities, which is exactly what these times are calling for. It's calling for reinvention, calling for innovation. When I first started out in business over 20 years ago, I was one of literally only a handful of women that I knew of working exclusively with women. I could count on one hand the other women entrepreneurs who were doing that as well. And often people looked at me strangely when I said I work with women and support them with women's spirituality. They just couldn't understand what I was even talking about or how that could even be a job. Yet, for me, this area of focus has been clear from the start. It's always where my passion and my interest has been. And today, well, it would be nearly impossible to count how many women are in business serving other women. This is very, very common. And likely you are one of those women. And this is a wonderful thing. So many of us are out in the world serving and uplifting women. So we can see that there's been a huge surge in the number of women business owners in the world right now. And many, if not most of us, have been burned by the more masculine ways of doing business and just by our patriarchal culture in general, which we all hold within us. We all have an inner patriarch, no matter what gender we are. So in business, that shows up as a constant hustle. So kind of being in a constant summer season rather than also having winter seasons, spring seasons, fall seasons, various bro marketing tactics that can feel inauthentic, and sometimes they can feel like they're causing harm. A lot of competition and cancel culture and scarcity mentality. So this idea of Sorceress CEO conjures within each of us and within all of us together as a collective community of female founders, CEOs, healers, creatives. It conjures for all of us the rising up of a new possibility, a possibility of rooting into ourselves and the sacred first and foremost, of seeing the source of our abundance as flowing from within us, not something that's separate from us, that's outside of us, that we need to try to coerce or force. We are connected with the rhythms of our bodies, the rhythms of our planet, of our cosmos. We are deeply connected to our intuition. We lead from our intuition. And our primary motive is to serve, because we know that is the absolute highest function of a human soul. We are designed to create and to serve. We're here to be a vessel of the divine. That's how we do that. And if you're a business owner, the method that you're using to do that is your business, your sacred business. So in this way, business is a force for good in the world. Business is a vehicle for service and love. Business is a creative act. It's a devotion to what you value the most and to the vision that you hold of a more healed, whole, and thriving world. This is business as a feminine spiritual practice. So then we wear the role of CEO like our crown, because we understand the huge responsibility and privilege that it is to be a business owner. Our female ancestors likely did not have this privilege. It is a huge gift to have this level of influence, to have this level of freedom. And so as we put on our crown of CEO, we commit to being good students and stewards of business. We commit to learning how to master this role of CEO, because most of us didn't go to school to get our MBA. No, we need to learn how to do this so that we can be more masterful stewards of our sacred businesses. And we understand that in the eyes of the sacred, there's no distinction between seated meditation or, say, a yoga asana, or crunching numbers on a spreadsheet, or creating SOPs so you can delegate important tasks to a virtual assistant. In the eyes of the sacred, the exchange of money isn't less holy than the exchange of a gift. It's all part of the currency of love on our planet, so long as we root ourselves in our hearts, in the sacred, and in the attitude of service each day. So a sorceress CEO is a priestess of sorts, a queen in the realm of business. She is the self-led steward of sacred business, working to uplift herself, her family, her community, our world, and viewing this all as part of her own self-actualization. As a little girl, I loved playing school, and my favorite part was writing on a chalkboard with a fresh piece of white chalk. Today, my teacher's heart lives on, only now, instead of teaching with chalkboards, I make sure my online programs are stored and shared in the most organized, intuitive way possible. For the past few years, I've used Kajabi for this. It's heads and tails above any other online course platform that I've used since I first started teaching online back in 2008. Not only does Kajabi host all of my online programs, it also hosts all my program web pages and opt-in pages. It even hosts the private student-only podcasts I share inside my programs. Plus, it's easy for me and my team to use, and most importantly, it's easy for my students to use. I love it. If you're looking to uplevel, streamline, and beautify things in your own business, whether it's how you deliver your online courses, create web pages, or even host your entire website, I invite you to enjoy a free 30-day trial with Kajabi, which is one of the sponsors for this podcast. You can click the link in the show notes to get started with your free 30-day trial. If you're like me, you'll be so happy you did. The only downside is no chalk is involved. About 20 years ago, I went on retreat with my former teacher in feminine spiritual practice, Sophia Diaz, at Mount Madonna Center, just outside of Santa Cruz, California. And as one does when one is a yogini, we woke up at dawn and headed into the practice room. This was an all-women's retreat. I remember bright beams of sun were shining in through the windows onto the carpeted floor, and we all kind of took our space around the room. with Sophia in the front. And I looked out those windows, and beyond them were big white fluffy clouds. And it kind of took me a minute or a few minutes to figure out that they were clouds, because it looked like a carpet of just down pillows covering the view of the Pacific in the distance. And those clouds wouldn't lift until about lunchtime, when kind of that marine layer wore off or burned off. And over the next couple of hours, Sophia led us through our morning asana practice, and she really coordinated the experience with her famous chi generating pose. And those of you who've been on longer retreats with me, you will remember this type of experience, because I've led these as well. And in this particular one, she had us stand with our backs to a wall, and then to bend our knees until we were in our squat pose. So like our knees were over our ankles, and our knees were like pointed over our second toes. And we pressed our spines and the backs of our shoulders into the wall, and we needed to sink our hips down until they were at the level of our knees, while also pressing the backs of or rather by pressing our palms into the wall next to our hips. And then we were told just to hold this pose and to breathe, and not to breathe in just any old way, not to breathe in like a kind of like a frantic way, but to press the tip of our tongue behind our upper row of teeth and to close our mouth so that we would circulate our energy. Now, anyone who's ever held a squat pose of this depth, or really any depth for that matter, for longer than several breaths, you know it is not easy. So when I go to the gym and I do my leg day, that's my least favorite day. And part of that is because I have to do all these squats. So when you do them, you get hot, you start getting agitated, your thighs start burning, and your mind starts screaming things like, I need to get out of this. But Sophia had us hold it and 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 hold it. And in the midst of this intensity, she brought us into the heart of feminine spiritual practice. So she guided us to turn up the outer corners of our lips into a smile, to beam love out through our hearts, our spines, our arms, our legs, through the 5-pointed stars of our bodies, and to find something, anything that felt good, even if the only thing we could find was our earlobes. Because if you notice, your earlobes can always feel good. They never feel bad. And in the most challenging of poses, she urged us to radiate light, the feeling of which she said is always love. The feeling of light is love. And as feminine beings, our spiritual nature is love light. It is to be radiating light and to be sharing love through each breath, each action. Now, even though many of my parts didn't think that I would survive that pose, which went on for what easily felt like an hour, but was likely no more than 5 or 10 minutes max, I did make it through. And clearly the memory is still strong today, 20 years later. So when I'm in a hard moment in my business, maybe a team member leaves suddenly, or I have a challenging interaction with a student, or need to sort out some tech problem that seems way over my head, I remember that chi generation pose. I remember that I can be the one who radiates this love, this light, even in those challenging, air quotes, poses. Along these lines, one of the core teachings Sophia often shared was this: the difference between doing yoga and dragging your body around like a cantankerous dog on a leash is the answer to the question, are you in love? The difference between doing yoga and dragging your body around like a cantankerous dog on a leash is the answer to the question, are you in love? So as you're listening to this, I ask you, are you in love? See what shifts inside of you when I ask you that. When those words land inside of you. Maybe you feel your heart for the first time in a while and it softens ever so slightly. If not, what needs to shift in you for you to be able to answer yes to that question? Usually it's not a big shift. Usually it's something subtle. Like I said, your breath, feeling your heart, coming into your body. But whatever it is, you are at choice. So business isn't some disembodied, greedy, transactional, sterile process just for men. It can be a core part of our spiritual practice as feminine beings. If you are a business owner, your work is likely how you spend the majority of your waking hours. So rather than divorcing it from your spiritual life, make it a core part of it. Throughout history, singular, the civilizations that have thrived the most have done so because of a thriving commerce. Where there is a flow of currency, there's more creativity, more arts, there's greater health and well-being of individuals. There's really kind of an overall flourishing of civilization. In this day and age, you are part of this flow. You are part of this flourishing. And remember, the function of the soul is to serve. You are here to be a conduit for the sacred. And if you're listening to this now, chances are that you feel lit up by business for some reason or another. There's a reason why you're working for yourself rather than not at all or for someone else, because working for yourself isn't necessarily easy. But you know that with all the risks, there are also incredible rewards. And if this is the case, this is a core part of your spiritual path. This is a core part of your soul's call to serve. So, my dear, how can you answer this question? Are you in love? In the ways that you do business? Even when it's hard, even when you want to quit, even when you think you won't make it, or you don't know how to do it, or you feel scared, you don't know if you have what it takes. Are you in love? This is the primary disposition of a Sorceress CEO. This is where we start. So we're going to end this first lesson where we start, being in love. I'm grateful to be here with you, exploring these important themes in these important times. One practice I have for you between now and when we meet again next week is to do a micro version of the practice that I spoke about today, to do a chi generation pose. So here's how you do that. Stand on your yoga mat, or it can be on any flat surface. Place your feet hip distance apart, outer edges parallel. You don't need to be against a wall for this, though you can if you want, like I described in the story. You're going to bend your knees so that they track over your second toes. And you're going to stretch your tailbone down toward the ground rather than reaching it back behind you as you elongate your spine up to the sky. Then you can put your arms out in front of you, like first position in ballet, or like you're hugging a big tree. And then you can close your lips and rest your tongue right behind your upper row of teeth, the tip of your tongue right behind your upper row of teeth. And you're going to set your timer for 3 minutes. Then you're going to breathe and hold the pose. Do not fidget. Do not come out of it early. Be the observer and see what comes up for you. Practice being in love, noticing what feels good. Remember, that's what your earlobes are for. And when the timer goes off, slowly come out of the pose and then just notice, marvel at everything that came up for you, everything that you added to that experience. And just see compassionately where else you're doing that in your life, especially in your business. All right, so try out that practice. And throughout simple moments, especially as you are working, starting out this new year, pause, ask yourself, am I in love? You can even put a sticky note on your computer, on your desk, someplace you're going to see it regularly. Are you in love? I'll see you next week for the second episode in our Sorceress CEO series. Thank you for joining me today. And remember, change doesn't come from listening alone. I invite you to commit to taking one small or large, courageous action after today's conversation. One step you can take, if you haven't already, is to sign up for my Sunday journal. It's a weekly newsletter filled with inspiration and reflections about the intersection between spiritual entrepreneurship and fulfilling your potential to help you become the woman you truly are in every area of your life. You can subscribe at programs-sarahavaughnstover.com/journal. And if you found this podcast valuable, please share it with the women in your world. Also, I'd be very grateful if you'd leave a review. It helps others find resources like this, and I'd love to hear what's coming alive for you after listening today. Above all, keep going, and never forget the unique offerings you and your true self bring to the world. Until next time, I'm sending you my heartfelt support.